Hey everybody, still swamped with orders, barely have time to do anything, so I wanted to be really quick with this. That's why I'm definitely glad that I'm not shooting from the hip, even though that's my general term for everything that comes easy that I do naturally, and it's talking about something I love. So today's video is on a class from edX, which is taught by, I believe his name is McNamara, but he is the former president of the World Bank. And he offers a class on edX.org. The class is called From Poverty to Prosperity. Now this is a very interesting lesson that stuck with me. It's very interesting. So it starts off with a history lesson. True history lesson about Rome and England. And I'll just start off with it. So basically, I'm not sure what year it was, maybe it was 400 AD, we'll say. And maybe it was before that, but around this time, Rome was going through basically a collapse. There was overthrows within the house. They were switching up. It was very poor leadership going on in Rome, and the empire was collapsing. And during this time, the biggest army of Rome was in England, and it was led by this general who, was there for quite a few years, had the biggest army of Rome, and he was basically he already took over England, and they were trying to take over Scotland above there, and they were actually having a hard time, and they actually said it wasn't worth going up there because there was actually, they're fighting for their lives to get the land, and they're fighting back, the people that they're fighting, and they actually, they weren't getting much out of the land, so it wasn't as more useful as the land down in England. It was very cold up there. It was harder land. It couldn't really grow so much. So, they were kind of fed up with what they were doing in England. They were a Roman Empire, and they were just out here conquesting. They did what they could, and the general of the army, with the biggest army of Rome, seeing what was going on at the capital, that it was very weak, and he actually had plans to take it over for himself. He was going to march his army back into the capital of Rome and take leadership of Rome. And that's what he planned to do. So he took the army and just left England in rubbles. Basically just left them to fend for themselves, took everybody from Rome right out of there, even though they'd been there for decades doing, colonizing the place and taxing the people. So after this 400 years, okay, so they leave, and then he goes and tells you that it took 400 years before England became a country, England. And he tells you the story of how it actually became. So after they left, like I said, they were in shambles, rubble. They had to build themselves back up, and he started it off with a riddle like so. So in the region, you have 4 farmers. You have the strong and the productive. You have the strong and the unproductive. Then you have the weak and productive, and then you have the weak and unproductive. Who's going to rule the region? They were all farmers back then, so you knew that these were the types of people in the region. Who was going to lead? Who was going to become the most profitable or enterprising? Who was going to be the leader of their area? Which of the 4? Strong, the weak, I'll let you think, or the productive or the unproductive. So obviously I feel like everybody gets this wrong. I got it wrong at first, and it was very interesting to find out that the strong and the unproductive are the ones who ended up ruling the region. And this wasn't just, this isn't just true in England. This is just a perfect example. But this was true in every region of that time back then. So the strong and the unproductive ruled the region. Well, how is that so? Well, think about it. You got the strong and the productive. They basically do what they do, but they keep to themselves. And I'm shooting a video, so one moment. So yeah, they keep to themselves. And when, of course, the weak, they have to do where they can fit in. So that is what they do. Um, Everybody's doing what they can, but most of the time they stick to themselves. But the unproductive, they're not getting very far by themselves, so they need some help. And chances are, if they don't get help with friendliness, they're going to do it with a little bit of more violence. So the strong and the unproductive were actually the ones that actually ruled, like that picture back there. They actually ruled the region, and it took quite some time. So basically, the strong and the unproductive may start off with ganging up on the weak productive and the weak and the unproductive. They might not be so happy with the weak and unproductive. They're not doing such a good job. So they might get the brute end of the stick a lot of the times if they're not becoming more stronger and joining, since they're unproductive, they need to become more stronger so they're not being the weak and the unproductive. So how did this lead up? So basically the strong and the unproductive was basically building a gang. All the strong and the unproductive ganged up together, and they started taking out the one by one, the strong and the productive. They already had the group. They were already blackmailing and coercing the others. Sorry, I'm having a lot of notifications going on. Like I said, things are crazy. And, by the time they got to the strong and productive, who could really fend up for themselves, they couldn't do much to an army. So yeah, the strong and the productive should have been seeing this ahead of time, and they should have actually joined up forces with the rest of the group before the strong and the unproductive did, but they didn't do so. So the strong and the unproductive are the ones that actually created the entire nation, because think what happened. They have one big gang that rules this little region, but how many regions is England broken into? Let's say we'll have 8 on each side. We'll say 16 regions. So 16 regions. This is going on doing the same exact thing. There's basically 16 different gangs or gang leaders of the strong and the unproductive, and they're ruling each region. Well, eventually, after they get over time, the 16 are going to become aware of themselves and not just longer taking over their region. They're going to be overlapping each other's region. So how does this end up? Well, this definitely leads to warfare, and when you have warfare amongst multiple sides, you're going to also have some partnerships. So in this class, he explains how it took 400 years for England to form through this time of anarchy. So, and he said this is basically how every country was formed back in the old days. This is how every nation state was created. So if that's how it was, and they said that, where does that tie in with progress? Because they ruled the nations for centuries to come. There was also a couple different populations of people, which was the rich. How did they get rich? They were rich by being useful to the strong and the unproductive, as well as being productive themselves. So they actually were able to fend off certain things, and they ended up joining up with the strong and the unproductive eventually, or somehow working out deals. So, and this is explained very deeply in the class. They talk about, roads being built, taxes, transportation of goods. These things, the strong and the unproductive didn't care too much to make things like that in place, but the strong and the productive did. So they had to listen eventually to the strong and the productive. Eventually the strong and the unproductive had to listen to them. So they say that this is how progress happened, from poverty to prosperity. It's definitely a great class. You should look it up. I don't want to be spending too much time here. I've already had about 15 customers chime in. Tomorrow's video is going to be on partnership agreements, something also very easy. I just formed one, so we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in for Fresh Pitchfork. You guys have a good day.